Okay, we're ready for you.
Okay. Stand.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Stan Mason.
Stan Mason, I'm Kara Dickinson. Welcome to our office.
Hi, Kara.
Would you prefer Stan or Mr. Mason?
You can call me Stan.
Hi.
I'm Casey Kraft.
Casey?
Thank you.
All right, Kara and Casey.
Yep,
Yes.
we're partners, and we'll both be here today for you. So
Okay.
did you have any trouble finding the office?
No, not at all.
No? Okay, good. Well, like I said, Casey and I will both be here today because two legal minds are always better than one, and we want to be able to make sure we fully understand everything that's going on and help you through this process.
Okay, I'm not gonna pay double for you guys, am I?
No, you're not. But anything that you know, if we decide that we'll be representing you, then we'll both be here, and it'll be best for our clients that we're available more than just one person.
Is that a nice way of telling me I'm getting two for the price of one?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Okay, so is this your first time with the law firm?
Yes, it is. Never met with a lawyer before, never had a reason to before.
Well, let's hope you have a good experience this time. So, how'd you hear about our firm?
Advertising on the radio.
Okay, all right.
Good.
Whose voice is that on the radio?
Actually, it's our secretary's voice on the radio.
Oh, okay.
And we decided to let you know that today is a free consultation. So that means that we won't be charging you anything for our meeting today. And we've set aside about 30 minutes to meet with you today, just so we can kind of get an idea of what issues you have or anything that's going on, so that gives us time to talk and figure out if we're going to represent you or if you even want us to represent you.
Okay.
And so that's.
Just before we get started and hearing everything that you have to say, we want to go through a few office policies and make sure that you're comfortable working with
Okay.
us. And then we'll hear everything that you have to say about your situation. We might come back and clarify a few things, make sure we completely understand. Then we'll probably talk about any law that applies to your situation and any remedies that you may have.
Okay, it's an easy situation. Anybody can understand my situation.
Perfect. Well,
Okay.
we're here for you. So first off, anything that we say in this office, anything that you say to us or our secretary, or we have a paralegal working here, there's a confidentiality statement. You're welcome to look it over anytime. It's basically just saying anything you say to us is confidential, doesn't leave the office. If you decide even not to work with us, if we all decide that we can't be able to take your case, then we'll still keep anything that you say confidential. So
Okay.
feel free to say everything, and don't, hopefully you feel comfortable and don't feel like you have to hold anything back.
I won't hold anything back.
We're going to be making a few notes today. You're welcome to take notes as well. Don't feel any obligation to. It's basically,
Okay.
we do it just to make sure we understand everything, and later on we can look back at your file.
Okay.
Do you have any questions so far about?
No?
Okay, well, I'll tell you a little bit about us, just so you know what you're getting into if you decide to work with us. We've been established as a firm between her and I for 10 years. And prior to that, we were working for another firm, and we decided to branch out and make our own. We specialize in bankruptcy and like constitutional law issues and family law and things like that. So we have a lot of
You both do
different
both of those
specialties.
things?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's really the history of our firm. We have a pretty good working reputation in the community, and I imagine that's why you've heard about us, if you heard about us on the radio, and so we look forward to maybe working with you. So if you'd like to.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want
Okay.
to start and tell us everything that's going on.
Okay. Well, it's about my 17-year-old daughter, Savannah. The schools singled her out, and they're starting to, they picked on her. She's a good kid. She's student council president, and they kicked her off student council. And they won't reinstate her, and I want to reinstate it back to student council. She's a good kid. She's almost straight A's. She plays volleyball. She's all district volleyball player. She plays in the orchestra. She belongs to a bunch of clubs at school. She's like the perfect daughter. I mean, Mom and I have been so proud of her, and she got elected to student council president because she's so popular at school, and everything was going along fine. She's got this blog that she started months ago, and the blog's very popular. All the kids at school read it, and it's very topical, and she talks about current events and things that are going on there. But what happened is they got this new school board president, and she put some policy in place to where in the sex education class they're going to teach them about contraceptives. And we're church-going people, and we don't believe that sex outside of marriage should be proper and should be taught in school. And obviously, if they're teaching them how to use contraceptives, they're condoning that the kids have premarital sex. And my wife and I and Savannah, we don't believe that, and we don't teach that in our family. My daughter's a virgin. She hasn't had sex, and she's not going to have sex before marriage. And here the school's teaching her how to use contraceptives. So if that isn't bad enough, then Savannah puts on her blog, makes some comments about some of the people on her blog. And a blog is where you get to say pretty much whatever you want to say, as long as you're not defaming somebody, as long as you're saying the truth. It should be okay to put anything you want on a blog. But they read the blog and they took exception to it, and through some vote that they have on council, they get 3 kids at school to do a little review, and they voted her off of student council. She's no longer student council president. I want her to have that on her resume. It's just the right thing for her to be student council president. They elected her student council president, right, and they just randomly kick her off like that because of something that she writes on a blog, because it goes against her personal beliefs. She can't state her personal beliefs on her blog, and they kick her out of student council. And how's she going to get in a good university if she's not student council president? Her grades are starting to suffer. She's very distraught over this. She goes from being real angry to real upset, and I can't keep her focused on school anymore. The whole thing's become just this huge distraction. I want these people to know that we mean business and get her reinstated back at school, but I don't know what's going to happen to her now. There's not that much of the school year left, right, and if there's enough time to get her reinstated, so time's pretty important to us.
Okay, I'm just basically gonna identify some of the key points that you said, and then we're gonna ask you a couple questions just to clarify certain situations.
Okay.
So you're just concerned that your daughter was kicked off student council after writing comments about others in the school and about the sex education course that is required.
Right.
And she's distracted, concerned about grades, and not having student council on her resume, which would help her get into a good university. And she's suffering from these distractions, and you want her reinstated into student council.
Yeah, I think if we could get her reinstated to student council, and if everybody accepted that, and she could just go back to where she was before all of this contraception and the violation of what we believe in our church, before all of that came into the school system structure. It's just not right that they introduced that, a complete change in curriculum in the middle of the school year. I mean, she starts at the high school and the curriculum is one thing, and there's no mention of contraception. We like all of the things that are going to be taught in the sex education class, and then the school board goes off and randomly votes to put this new thing in there that no one knew about in advance, and they introduce it in the middle of the school year, and it just disrupts everything.
Right.
Was there any opposition made to the school board about these changes? Did somebody go to a meeting or anything like that to express their dislike for these changes?
I don't know, because we didn't go to the school board meeting, and we didn't hear about that being introduced there. It's one of those things where they have school board meetings every month, and we don't usually attend those. The school board's always been reasonable, and they've never been crazy like this before. And then all of a sudden, here we have this random introduction of contraceptives into the sex education curriculum, and it's just not right, but it's there, and they're doing it. And so my daughter takes offense to that, and you can tell I take offense to it too, and so she's just stating her opinion, and so the people in charge take exception to her stating her opinion on the blog, because they know a lot of the students read it at school, and so it started this big uproar. And so I think they railroaded some vote that they have through student council, and they got her kicked off student council.
I think one of the main questions is what exactly she said on the blog, and you said she made comments about other people, so who she made comments about and what were those comments?
She was making comments about the principal of the school and about the school board president, the one that railroaded the contraceptive issue into the sex education curriculum. And so she made some comments about them. I think they were too bad. I thought they were factual and truthful. And isn't the truth a defense? If people are going to take exception to it, they can take exception all they want. But if you're writing the truth and saying nothing but the truth, you can't get in trouble for that, can you?
Well, it depends actually who you're making comments about, but we can get into that a little bit more after we get a little bit more facts about the situation. Is there any way you have any access to the blog where we would be able to see the actual?
Sure, it's a public blog. Anybody, I can give you the name of the blog. It's Savannah Speaks is the name of the blog, and I think if you Google that, you can find it right away.
Okay. You also said that a lot of the students in the community read the blog, and you mentioned they read the blog. Were you referring to the president and the principal?
Well, there's a way to know exactly who's reading it, but we get a head count of the number of visitors to the blog on a daily basis, and so that's how we know that it has a lot of hits.
Okay.
We've never gone into specifically looking at who accesses the blog. There is a way to do that, but I imagine that the school board president, the principal, most of the teachers or authorities have looked at it, especially as it apparently became controversial, some of her remarks over the last few weeks that they're using as an excuse to kick her off of student council. So I think a lot of people have in authority have accessed it and looked at it. Otherwise, how would they know the stuff that they claim they're taking offense to?
Right.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, you seem to be more interested in getting your daughter reinstated, but are you also interested in getting the school board to take that off as well, or is it more of just getting her reinstated at this point?
Well, I'd be interested in getting the school board policy changed, but I think that's probably a longer course of action, and that has a lot more politics involved in it. I wish we had attended the school board meetings on a regular basis, and we would have if we had any idea that we're even contemplating doing something like that. But I think the easier and the shorter term issue is, on behalf of my daughter, getting her reinstated as student council president. I would think the student body would want her reinstated as president because they voted her in, and I don't think she's done anything worthy of getting kicked off of student council. It's not, the students didn't take another vote, for example, and vote her out.
Right.
It's some panel of 3 people. They have some kind of a process that involves 3 students. So 3 random students get picked, and these 3 kids get picked, and they hear whatever evidence they have. It's not really like a legal official hearing or something, but they have some kind of an administrative hearing where these 3 kids hear the evidence, so to speak, and then they just vote. And they voted to kick her off, but I think it's due to pressure from the principal and maybe even the school board president. I think they're railroading that vote to get her kicked off.
Do you know if there were any policies that like she was given when she became president as to something that that she like? I know that some documentation sometimes that they give out for policies would say that you can't say like certain things against individuals in the organization, or you can't. I don't know. There are some provisions like that, so I didn't know if she was ever given any kind of.
She signed something like that, but that doesn't apply to blogs.
Right.
Blogs are different. She can do whatever she wants on the blog. So that paperwork that she signed where she said she wouldn't speak out against other people, she hasn't done any of that. She only did it on the blog, and that paperwork doesn't apply to a blog, that policy.
Okay, so just to recap, your main priority is to get it reinstated and long-term to change the curriculum. So what do you think maybe the other side would have to say, as far as the school board and president, as to, their side of the story, just so we kind of can balance, everything that's going on?
Well, I think they just tell you that they don't like what she said, and so they got her kicked off.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they really did. I don't know what they're gonna tell you they did.
Right. Okay. So did she get any maybe notice from them from this hearing that they were going to have, or any sort of paperwork from the school board?
I don't know if she got any notice in advance, but they had some kind of a meeting at school where those 3 kids voted, and it was really fast. I mean, they talked to a couple of people, hear some stuff, and then they vote, and boom, just like that, she's off student council. It's just not right that, you have a whole school student body vote, and they elect Savannah student body president, and then just like that, man, 5 minutes later, they have some hearing and hear a couple of people talk, and 3 kids vote, and boom, she's out, just like that.
Was she asked to attend that hearing?
Yes, she was there.
She was there.
Yeah, she said it wasn't run very well, and it wasn't done right, that she wasn't allowed to really have anybody called as witnesses on her behalf or something. They just introduced the evidence on the blog, just read stuff off of her blog, and then they voted and said she violated the procedure that she had signed and agreed to before she got elected to student council. Apparently all these kids signed some kind of I don't know if it's a contract or some kind of an agreement, but I don't think Savannah violated that. The only time she spoke out against any of the administrators was in the blog. She didn't do it any other way in the student newspaper or anything like that.
Well, we would definitely have to take a look at that agreement and see exactly what the provisions were. I know you're saying that a blog would be separate, but there could be something tied into those agreements that do state anything outside of the school or so on. So we would definitely have to take a look at that.
Okay, well, I definitely want your opinion on that before I decide whether to hire you or not.
Okay.
You gotta be on my side where the blog, whatever's said in the blog doesn't count, because that's free speech. I mean, she can do whatever she wants on a blog.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with that is that when she is in the capacity of representing the student council as president, there's like a stigma that she is representing the school, and so whatever comments that she were to make in that capacity as like a president, or because they recognize her as president, it can almost be seen as the opinion of the school.
Yeah, well,
So that's why they're,
Yeah, they didn't mind the blog when she was talking about all kinds of stuff they agreed with, but as soon as she starts mentioning things that they're in disagreement with, well, now everybody gets in an uproar, and before you know it, she's no longer student council president.
Well, we definitely want you to feel like we're on your side and that we're here for you. It's not so much that we are not taking your side by looking at that agreement. We just want to make sure we have everything so that we can best help you. If we do decide that we'll be able to represent you, we want to have everything to make your case, even if it may be negative for any reason. That'll help us in the end.
So can you access the blog and read that stuff first, and then decide, let me know what side you land on, where you think that's going to go, before I decide whether I hire you or not?
Yes.
Yeah, we can definitely do that minimal research. And another major question is any other repercussions besides being kicked off of student council, because you mentioned she played volleyball and other.
There hasn't been any repercussions for that. Volleyball season's over, so they can't do anything with that. She's still in the orchestra and still in her other clubs. But what I'm worried about is her possibility of getting into a good university. Her grades are starting to suffer. And then, long term, I mean, her loss of earning capacity as she gets older and into the job market, if she goes to a lesser school, or what's viewed as a lesser school, a lower ranking university, then the job market is less appealing. She's less appealing in the job market, and her long-term ability to get a job and her earning capacity as she gets older, all of that can be impacted down the road. I mean, a lot of these kids don't think about things like that, but But we know what the real world looks like by the time we get our age, and we know that that's gonna could have a potentially big impact on her. All because these people just don't like what she writes on a blog.
Have you tried to seek any help in a matter of maybe seeing a therapist or medical to maybe look at her emotional state? Since you mentioned her grades were slipping as a repercussion of, you know, being kicked off student council and all the pressure of that. Have you sought any medical help at all?
We haven't. I mean, I think her grades will pick back up if she
Okay.
gets reinstated. Everything
Okay.
becomes, okay, that's gonna fix everything when she gets back reinstated.
Okay. Are you looking for any sort of like monetary damages for this sort of area?
No,
or-
we don't want any money. We
Okay.
just
Okay.
want them to leave her alone, put her back where she
Right.
was. Like to go back to the way it was before they started picking on her.
Okay, well, like you said, it was pretty straightforward, and we think we really understand your priorities. So Casey's gonna go a little bit into the law and what's applicable as in the First Amendment and her right to speech.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay, so while we've been talking, I've been really thinking about the First Amendment to speech, and I know that that a blog is, you know, like you're free to say what you are on a blog. However, like I was saying earlier about her representing the school, I think that is taking an effect into it. And also when you're in school, like you have less of a right to privacy. And so I think that's gonna play into it as well, because with her, it like goes against, like you can't go to school and wear a shirt that says, you know, that has like a naked person on it, like, or, you know, you can't, you know, just start like cursing all the time and things like that in the school, because not only does it reflect bad on them, but then, like it reflects bad on you as a person, and even though it is your free speech. And so I think that's part of the blog is coming into that, because she's a representative of the school. Like they're seeing that when a student reads her blog, they're seeing that as a representation of the school. And so that's what I fear is going to play a lot into this.
so she's held to a higher standard than another student with a block?
Because she accepted the higher standard of being student council president. That's what, I mean, that's something that we would need to look into further. I'm saying that could be an obstacle that is in
Okay,
the way of that.
That's part of the research process that we would have to do, like you mentioned, go actually read her blog and read the agreement that she signed. Another thing to take into consideration is that it's a public school, correct?
right.
So that's a little bit different than if we were dealing with private school and their rights versus a public school. There are a little bit of different things that would apply as far as the law, and like Casey was saying, the content-based of her speech doesn't sound, from what you say, like the content was, you know, advocating violence, or that she was using foul language or things like that. Any obscenities or fight words, you know, aren't necessarily protected. So it sounds like, you know, we do have something here, but we would definitely have to read her blog just to make sure.
Right, there's no advocating violence,
Right.
and she doesn't swear or cuss, she just calls the people out because she doesn't believe, just like they don't agree with our beliefs, we
Right.
don't agree with their beliefs. So they get to say and implement a policy based on their beliefs, but she can't even speak out against their beliefs. I mean, what's a country coming to? She can't even say what she believes in.
Right. A major thing is also, did she continue to go to the sex education courses?
She has to go.
She has to go,
Yeah,
okay.
it's mandatory.
Okay.
And she has to sit there while they talk about things that we don't even believe in. I don't even want my daughter sitting in that class,
Right.
but she doesn't have a choice.
Okay. All right, so I think, do you have anything to add as far as the law goes?
Well, I was just thinking also that they, as far as I know, schools have to offer an alternative. And so that would be something that we also need to direct in a letter, because for instance, if a school did, like a Catholic school, for instance, we're just gonna say that, we're gonna use that as an example. They, if you send another student denomination to a Catholic school, they can't make them go to confession or something like that. And so, like, these kind of things are going to play into even in public school, because, you know, if a student doesn't believe in like dissecting frogs, for example. Like, they have to give them an alternative if it's something that, and so I think that's something
Yeah,
that
and
we
see,
need to offer.
that's what I'm talking about, because my daughter's we're not the only family that
course.
believes
Right.
the way that we do, that contraceptives are wrong to be taught
Mm-hmm.
there. There are other families that agree with our position, so they're making it sound like we're the only ones, that we're the outcasts, and it's not that way at all.
Well, another thing to think of as you're saying that is minority and being an outcast, as far as a minority sense, you would have some rights there, and also religious rights. If it is a big part of your religion, to be abstinent until you're married, then that could play into, your religious freedom in public schools. I know there are some laws that go along with that about prayer and things like that, so we can look into the religious aspect as far as they're making her do something that's against her religion.
Okay.
Right.
So basically, since we covered a lot of the law and there are some things that we pointed out that we may need to research, I'm just going to go through some alternatives that maybe would help your situation.
Okay.
So first of all, we would have to look into the administrative process of the school, their appeals process. A lot of times, I know we've had some sports cases before, you have to go through the board before you can take action legally. To get a remedy in court, you would have to show that you went to the school first. So here we would look at the procedure that they used to kick her off of student council, which was the 3 students, and the hearing, the supposed hearing that they have, the process that went through that. She wasn't given any paperwork or notice of the hearing, things like that. We'd have to look and see the policies and if they followed the procedure, and then we would have to follow the procedure to appeal that first before we can go to any sort of court remedy, okay?
Okay.
The pro of that is that we really address them and show a legal front that you have been seeking representation, and it's not just you saying, oh, I want my child back on student council. You show that, there are legal things involved and her freedom of speech, and that will really kind of push the school to follow procedure, or else they know that there can be a lawsuit to follow.
Right, because these people are just doing whatever they
Right.
want right now, and they think I'm just gonna sit back and take
Right.
it, and we need to let them know that we're not gonna just sit back and take
Right.
it.
So we're thinking that the administrative process would have to be first. A thing that can go along with the administrative process is we could draft a letter for you as your representation, send it to the school board and the president so that everybody gets a copy of it, and asking them for a speedy hearing and appeals process, because obviously you don't want it to drag out since the school year is almost over. So we would want to do that right away.
Can we make them say or respond to us and tell us exactly how the process would work, what they think
Right.
the process should be?
Yeah, we would ask them what the administrative process is as far as the school board goes, and they would have to respond to something like that, or else, because that's part of the administrative process, they have to respond. Something that could come out of that if the appeals process doesn't work in her favor, and they still say that she's kicked off of student council, is after that we would go to maybe mediation and try to work with the school if they have any policies that allow for that. If not, then we would have to file a claim against them for violation of their freedom of speech, of your daughter's freedom of speech.
Yeah, see, time is on
Yeah.
their side, it's not on
It
our
is,
side.
it
How
is.
do we, what can we do to move it along, speed it up faster?
I would say the fastest thing is writing this letter and going through the administrative process as soon as possible. I'm sure there's a time limit on that, like a 30-day time limit, or 21 days. Sometimes they have different time limits on that. So we would have to do that and really push them to speed it along. And if they don't do that, then we have a stronger case moving forward against them, saying that they weren't even willing to work with us and follow their own procedures.
Because the school board only meets once a month, and
Right.
I don't even remember when the next school board meeting is.
It would most likely be separate from a school board meeting. They would
Okay.
have to set up a panel to hear her case, similar to what they did with the 3 students, but most likely public school doesn't usually have a hearing with 3 students. It would be school board members, presidents, things like that.
Okay.
So lastly, I would say after the administrative process, if it doesn't work in her favor, we would probably have to file a claim in court, which could take a longer time period. It could be retroactive though, in saying that if she's reinstated, it would still be on her resume and things like that. She just might not actually have been in that seat and be able to do anything as president.
Right, well, we
For that
just have
time
to
period.
cross
So,
that
right.
bridge when we get there.
So basically, what we would need from you is, I want to just go over this fee agreement before we make any decisions. You're welcome to look it over now. You're also welcome to take it home. I see you're married, so you can, look it over with your wife or another attorney as well. Basically, it's a $1,500 retainer with a $150 hourly rate that's deducted from the retainer. We give you monthly statements and updates as far as our time sheet and how that's going. If you don't reach the $1,000 minimum, anything under that, and we complete the process before that, then we would give you a $500 reimbursement.
Okay,
So the minimum would be $1,000.
$1,000.
So you just need to initial at the bottom of here and sign the second page and date it, and we would sign it as well. And we'll keep this in our records. We're welcome to provide you with a copy though.
Okay,
So basically, since we went over the retainer fee agreement and our hourly rates and everything, our next step would be, we have the blog information from you. We would ask that if you can provide us with the agreement that your daughter signed from the school. If
okay,
you have that in your records, that would be very helpful.
all right, I'll look for that, I'm sure Savannah has it.
Okay, great. It sounds like she's, very organized and put together, so we would really appreciate that in the next 3 days. So if we don't hear from you in the next 3 days, we will give you a call to see if you're, still wanting to go forward with this and to make sure we get all that information.
I'll have it back for you tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow, perfect.
And if we could also get like some proof of like her grades like being different, like that would be something that we could use. Like if there's a
Okay,
difference between, like, you could have us like some before
sure, I'll
that's
show you.
dated and
I'll
some
get you-
after. or
Yeah, I'll get you her
something.
report card
So you
and
can see
then I
what it
can
looks
show you what
like.
her grades
Okay.
look like. Her interim,
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
like her 6-week grades.
Yeah,
Right.
perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
Right. And then anything else that you think might be relevant to showing us like the how her life was before and after, because that's going to show the timeline, and then anything that she has to do with the student council. So any kind of documentation that she has. So like if there were like she was saying, like the policy agreement or anything like that, because if they have like a list of the process of like de-seating somebody, I guess is the best way to put it, then like that's something that we would need to look at. And so anything you have would probably be the best thing to
okay,
here.
all right.
Okay. So like you said, you're gonna come by tomorrow. You're welcome to fax it to us or bring it by to our secretary. We should both be in the office tomorrow. If we're with another client, then we won't be able to step out and see you, but if we're available when you come, you can always ask us a question then.
I'll just bring that stuff by, you guys look at that and read
Perfect.
the blog, and then let's talk tomorrow night or
okay.
tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
Normally our policy is when you call us, since we're, both want to be as available as we can for you, we usually return your call within 1 business day if we're not available right when you call.
You want to
Okay.
set an appointment for tomorrow afternoon or
Sure.
the following
You're
morning?
welcome to do that with our secretary. I don't have my
She
book
has
with me
them.
right now, but I believe we
Okay.
have something, I think our last appointment's available tomorrow, so she'll be able to help you more than I can.
Okay,
But, so basically our next steps is you coming in with that paperwork. We're gonna look at that blog as soon as possible, since you signed our fee agreement, and you're gonna pay the retainer fee out front
Yes.
with our secretary as well. And do you have any last questions or concerns, anything that maybe you forgot to mention, or?
no, I don't think
Okay.
so.
All right. Also, if you speak to your daughter tonight about this and get the paperwork from her, if there's something maybe she wanted to add, she's welcome to come in as
Yes.
well. Since
Okay.
she is a minor, we wouldn't, directly be dealing with her. We would more be representing both of you, but we would like to hear her side if she has anything
Okay.
to add. Okay.
Sure,
It would be nice to hear something from her, and then we can hear like how she feels. We can see her and hear how she feels about the presidential position, and if there's anything that she can think of that sounds different than what you remember, because I mean hers is the first-hand knowledge, and so that would be something else that.
Yeah,
You'll get a good idea what Savannah's like after you read the blog.
yeah,
And then
okay.
I'll be glad to bring her in to another appointment with us, and you can talk to her
Perfect.
and ask her anything you want.
All right.
Well, it sounds like those are our next steps. We're gonna read the blog and, look at the administrative process for the school board and draft a letter to them as well. So that'll be our next steps, okay?
Okay?
Here's our contact information, or a card.
Thank you.
Casey and I are partners, so we're both available for you. And feel free to contact us at any time during this process, and we hope it's speedy for you and
I hope so
get
too.
everything done.
All right.
Okay? Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
very
in today.
much.
We look
It was
forward to
nice to
working
meet you.
with you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, I'll
Bye-bye.
walk you out. Thank you.
Thank you.